A lot of videos about the sexism in both Helliverse shows, and I gotta say, I'm glad people are finally talking about it. I might chime in eventually, but something I really want to talk about is how racist the show is. We know how mistreated women are by the writers, and we know how packed with gay stereotypes the show is. And now I want to cover just how calculated the racism feels. I will open with something I noted noticed while writing my script for Clara and Odette, Carmilla's daughters. Well, yes, they are background characters. I think their designs communicate a lot about the mindset of making these characters. Clara, the sister of a darker complexion, doesn't communicate as much in her appearance. She's got a basic sleeveless crop top, shorts, fingerless gloves, and long socks. It's a fine outfit. It unfortunately lacks any sort of accessory or something distinct to tell us who she is or what she does. She looks a lot like someone's OC. They just sort of are squeezed in. Her drastically paler sister, however, while being basic still, at least has something that allows us to interpret who she is. It's just a simple lab coat and clipboard. Even still, it lets us know that she's a technician of the company or group, whatever you want to call it. Odette's design stayed the same, but I know that Clara was different before. She was white before with a similar outfit. So we know that they had the time to redesign her and give her something more distinctive, and yet they didn't. All just foreshadowing for the rest of this hellhole, we'll call it. It just goes to show a lack of interest in her character, I will say. Done in a really harmful way, depicting it with such pure evil, which, from what I've read and heard, it's a practice that had a negative representation, which was only amplified by media depictions or general misunderstandings in the areas that it was being practiced in. I'm no expert on the topic, but I have the sense to know that having Alastor use voodoo magic to summon hell demons and to make deals with people is a crazy insensitive move. And let's not forget the fact that they made him cannibalistic on top of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that was a common propaganda used by white people at the time, especially the time that he was alive, to label black people as crazy and to say that they were doing things that were just insane. And then we need to factor in the fact that he's a deer, which, as I mentioned this before, but buckbreaking was I believe, a common practice done to slaves. There's no easy way to put it, but essentially it was violating the men until they wouldn't fight back. I believe that was what it was. But it was a horrible practice, is the point. And we will not be forgetting what Rosie did either. As much as I want to love Rosie, they had her leash this man and sing about how he's her pet, and they animated their Creole character, which they had just shown before this song, that they were very clearly showing him to be a black man in the 30s or 40s. I don't know exactly which year. I kind of forgot. I believe 30s though, late 30s. And they even have her sing "You're in my zoo," which I don't think I have to explain why that is insane to be having in your show. I'm sure there's a lot more about Alastor's character that are racist undertones, things that I didn't pick up on, and please tell me what I didn't catch. But these things that I know, like, all of these things really do add up. Bibsy could plead ignorance or maybe say that it's not that deep and she's a spicy Latina who relates to Val. It, however, feels very specifically calculated to be as hateful towards black men as possible. If you're gonna make a Creole character, I feel like your research should be much more extensive than Princess and the Frog, and I almost guarantee you that's all she really used for research. Alastor's character is essentially just Dr. Facilier. I don't think the voodoo thing should just be cut, and I don't think they should just make him white. I do think they could have been maybe just a bit more tasteful with how they did that, and don't animate him in a cage with someone who looks like a slave owner, and maybe, we could just not have him eat people. I think killing his oppressors is more than enough. And also, I want to point out here too, the fact that they darkened his skin in the second season because people complained enough in the first one about how pale he was. Another very calculated racist character I want to talk about is Nifty. As much as I hate her, the discussion I had in the comments on my past video about her made me realize a lot, and now I just feel very sympathetic for her. I mean, right off the bat, her skin had to be changed from yellow to white, which Japanese woman yellow skin, pretty insane, is it not? But you know, she's a roach, so maybe it was simply being unaware or aloof, right? Well, let's take a look at who/what she is. Nifty is a short Japanese woman who's remarkably small, proportioned like a child, and is very infantilized with her attitude and how the other characters treat her. Not only is she acting childlike, but she's very sexualized by the show, having her talk about wanting bad boys or liking being touched, or most egregiously, having her wearing BDSM gear. It's not really a secret that Asian women are very hypersexualized by society, like they're turned into a fetishized object with this idea that they're subservient or ready to be commanded. I feel disgusting saying that, but it's an idea that's being perpetuated by society. Nifty was a 1950s housewife too, so maybe this is a topic they're going to try to explore later on, something with the lobotomy theory, and like maybe her husband wanted her for that, and that's something they're going to do a commentary on. Regardless, this does not feel like the show to be exploring such topics. Angel's scene was so glossed over and very surface level with how they depicted his essay, and they just had him say everything so upfront and just be like obvious about it, and it didn't feel like a really good depiction or interesting it was just barely anything about his experience. Like, it was a very draft feeling scene, I have to say. I'll cover that when I talk about why I think he should be a woman. But anyway, Nifty doesn't really get to be a character outside of that a lot either, mainly because of her lack of screen time. Her song offers a bit of insight, I guess. Her chibi anime self is really giving lolly. I don't think that having a J-pop type song was racist necessarily. I'm not well versed on Japanese music, so all I'll say is I'm hoping that maybe they tried to replicate something from the older Japanese pop music if they care about historical accuracy or anything. Another controversy I'll bring up again is Mimsy's nose, which Viv tried to cover up with saying was a chicken motif. However, I do not feel inclined to believe this. For one, there is nothing else indicating that Mimsy is a chicken, and from everything else we know, this hooked nose Jew stereotype feels like another calculation. That's another common thing used in Disney when designing villains, which we know she's a Disney doll. Really could have been fixed by adding chicken features or adjusting the nose. I can't help but feel like there's so many things that could be pointed out. Angel's family, I pray, does not end up becoming one huge harmful Italian stereotype. One more thing I'll say, I love Zizi, and I really hope that she doesn't end up just being the sassy black girl side character. I feel like every show has one now, or a lot of the popular ones do, and from what little she said, I'm getting the impression she might just get turned into that. Praying I'm wrong, of course. Knowing Viv, my hopes aren't high though. Man, the nerve to make Vox's last name Whitman too. Another drunk joke I guarantee. Like, haha, guys, he's a white man, get it? The class system in Helva is barely depicted meaningfully as anything either, which I think speaks for itself. Anyway, I just really wanted to dedicate a video to this. Pray to God that no Indian characters get introduced. I do not want to have any bad smell jokes get made. Have enough of that already. Hazbin can't handle race properly. I wholeheartedly believe that. Don't look for good representation here. My question of the day, like I said, what other racist things have you noticed in this show? Because I want this discussion, I want to get it going. Memberships are open. I'll put the perks on screen here. Join our Discord server if you want. Hype the video maybe if you want to do that. Subscribe, check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.